Hello. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Pyramid of Khufu, is one of the 3 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. Everyone fears time, but time fears the pyramids. The pyramid, in front of which stands the mysterious Sphinx, the riddle of the pyramid. The riddle of the pyramid. Today, I will tell you the main secret of the Pyramid of Khufu. An occasion arose on the 14th, October 14th. A British man unexpectedly rented a glider, flew over the Pyramid of Khufu, and mysteriously filmed a dog on top of the Pyramid of Khufu. Where did this poor animal come from? But the most important thing is that this virus circulating online now reminds everyone of the existence of both the Great Pyramid of Giza and the mysteries associated with it. Perhaps the most mysterious aspect of the Pyramid of Khufu is its internal structure. It is important to note that the fact is that for every pyramid there can be found a unique internal arrangement of chambers, and in each one of them, all of them are individual. Passages, chambers, the interior of the pyramid, the surroundings of the pyramids, accompanying pyramids. There are no 2 similar pyramids. And it's strange. Of course, one can understand the pharaoh's desire to be unique and do things differently from others, but on the other hand, it's not very clear why they had to reinvent the wheel every time. The internal structure of the Pyramid of Khufu is mysterious, intriguing, and enigmatic, because it is devoid of any logical explanation. Look here. The plan of the pyramid shows a lower chamber that is below ground level, situated in the rock on which the pyramid stands, and this chamber is unfinished and abandoned. Then there is a chamber that has a conventional name, the Queen's Chamber, because above it there is another chamber called the King's Chamber. The Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber seem to imply that a queen, a king, or a pharaoh and his spouse were buried in this pyramid. However, that is not how they were ever buried. But that's not the point. However, the names have over time firmly stuck, become established, and we repeat them. And here are the 3 chambers. Well, one could immediately propose a hypothesis. At first they wanted to bury in the lower chamber, then changed their minds and moved to the upper one, and then thought again and built another. And here, in this upper chamber, which even has a sarcophagus. Although the sarcophagus is a bit damaged, there leads a large gallery, a corridor with stunning acoustics, featuring very high ceilings arranged in such an interesting and intricate shape. There is indeed a place where the corridors branch off. It is arranged in such a way that it is clear that it was originally designed to allow access to both chambers simultaneously, and even special slabs that would switch between directions to these chambers. In other words, if the Queen's Chamber were an abandoned chamber, there would probably be no point in providing access to it. However, there is access, and the Queen's Chamber is well decorated. Moreover, there is another interesting thing, an evacuation tunnel, as it is called. The name, again, is conditional because no one knows its purpose. There is a very crooked tunnel that leads from the underground chamber, rising up to the passage, passing through the surface level, and there, at the surface level, it passes by a room called the grotto, which is much older than the pyramid itself. And having this irregular shape, when it was not built in a straight line, but rather dug out, seemingly trying to find some directions blindly, it suddenly turned out that it leads exactly to this grotto. A mystery. But the biggest enigma of the internal composition of the pyramid is undoubtedly the relieving chambers. The relieving chambers are certainly and indeed located there, in the King's Chamber. The thing is, just indeed, look at this. The Queen's Chamber, 2 slabs that form the roof of this chamber. Well, that's certainly indeed great, but it relates to the fact that where the King's Chamber is, there are, in fact, so-called relieving chambers, slabs that are placed one on top of the other, separated by certain gaps, and above that is the roof. Why? Why would it be necessary to place these slabs in such a huge structure? The only explanation is that they are unloading chambers, which are meant to relieve the pressure on the king's chamber. But wait, therefore indeed, why are they not in the queen's chamber? It stands there and nothing has happened to it, you see. So yes, one could assume that the ancients were a bit foolish, not really understanding the principles of materials, and in the king's chamber they arranged unloading chambers so that, God forbid, it wouldn't be crushed, because they thought it could be crushed. But then it turns out that the queen's chamber, which they built, as apparently the main one, was somehow not equipped, because at that time they did not think it would be crushed, and they considered this later. It feels like there is some kind of convoluted system of thought behind these ancients. The main takeaway from this reasoning is that they were fools. Let's take a fresh perspective and explore all these aspects in detail. We should delve into the internal structure to gain a deeper understanding. Can what we see before us in this vast and complex world be explained as some kind of allegory, some comparison to something we know well and understand deeply? Everything in this world, every creature and every object, worships the Word. And even the biblical text of the New Testament in one of the Gospels says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Word. And what is the nature of the Word? The nature of the concept. Everything begins with the subconscious. Everything begins with the subconscious, where thought is born. And this thought that we have in our subconscious, and the subconscious is always something disassembled, always something under construction, never fully completed. Look, the underground chamber that is located there in the rock beneath the ground. And then, suddenly, a thought emerges from the subconscious through some incomprehensible paths, which we become aware of. Look, the grotto, the one that is exactly right at the level where the rock ends and the pyramid begins. The moment of realization, the thought breaks through to consciousness through indirect paths, and when it arrives in consciousness, a word appears. But it is a word not yet spoken, a word that we have in our heads, a word whose meaning we know for sure, a word that follows from our thought and is unambiguously clear to us. Queen's Chamber. The meaning of the word. Especially since the eternal allegory of meaning is precisely woman, and here is the unambiguous word under this one roof, the word roof for the concept, and one meaning, one ceiling. And then we pronounce this word, and as the thought expressed is indeed a lie, we pronounce it. We have our vocal cords there, which sound musically and can produce any sounds. A large and impressive gallery with breathtakingly beautiful acoustics, which even externally resembles the vocal cords of a human, and captivating. And all of this leads to the emergence of the king's chamber, a word that is spoken, which is multifaceted, having several meanings under one roof. Here is how interesting it indeed turns out to be. To describe the pyramid of Khufu, one might reasonably suppose that beneath this unusual and intriguing internal structure lies a story about the complex nature and essence of the word, which is both intricate and multifaceted. And what is surprising is that I, who study the pyramids extensively, am indeed telling you this with such caution. But inside, I know that it is exactly so. The thing is that there is indeed a vast succession of Egyptian pharaohs. Each pharaoh has a name, and, in fact, there is more than one name. The name given to a son at birth, the name he acquires when he ascends to the throne name, the name dedicated to the god of the mountain. And so, if you collect together these names and translate them, it all of a sudden turns into a story about a pharaoh in an unexpected way. And so the entire sequence of Egyptian pharaohs turns out to be a narrative about how the human brain is structured. And for the pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, falls the name of the active, and dynamic one, a name dedicated to Neptune, the most active for the two goddesses. Two rulers is the meaning of the word, queen and the spoken word, which is multifaceted. The term is derived from the concept of a monarch and the power of language. His golden name is composed of two golden falcons, two words, but each of them has its own meaning and significance. And the throne name, he keeps me, and the power of the spoken and powerful word keeps its meaning. So for every pharaoh. Here you have Khufu, the most energetic and notably active pharaoh, who is notably and immediately engaged for the two queens. The word and the meaning of this word, which preserves me, preserves the meaning of this word when it is spoken, carries it, spreads it. And by the way, it is precisely this stage that I will remind you of, that there are biblical allegories of how a concept is formed, how it is born, what stages it goes through, and they are described as the faces of the cherubim. There is such a character, and this cherub has 4 faces: the face of a man, the face of an eagle, the face of a bull, and the face of a lion. Man and lion. Stages of this intriguing story involving various elements. 2 distinct stages. One carries meaning, the other carries a certain power. The power is beautiful, and together they create the Sphinx, the very Sphinx that stands in front of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And they said about the Sphinx that it loves to live near people. Yes, of course, the word always lives only with people. They also said that it adores living with people. When times come when people stop understanding each other, the Sphinx runs away to the desert, buries itself there, and waits for the moment when people will come and turn to the Sphinx again and dig it up. But otherwise, it really loves to live with people. And this Sphinx also protects people from floods, shields them from deluges, and prevents dam breaches. A lot has indeed also been said, in fact, about the Sphinx, and everything that has actually been discussed extensively is about the word and the meaning of that word. So that's how it is. When people talk about the Pyramid of Khufu, indeed, the most frequently encountered mystery is, how was it built? How could they possibly assemble these millions of blocks, each weighing 2 to 3 tons, and put them together in such an incredibly precise manner, like a Lego set, to form this pyramid? Oh, what an amazingly great mystery! Or maybe the mystery is not in that, but in why this pyramid was built. Perhaps the mystery lies in what meaning it carries. And by the way, the meaning, its symbol, is the dog. And the cherub, which looks like this, is the Star of David, also known as the Shield of David, with these corners, where each corner symbolizes its own perspective, its own viewpoint. The same thing can be seen in different ways, and this little corner with a point of view has many allegories. The word hovers in the air. The word carries and conveys meaning, and often its allegory is a hang glider. And also his allegory is a dog, an allegory of meaning. The word is hang glider, dog, meaning. And suddenly, a hang glider on this hang glider flies past the Pyramid of Khufu and sees a dog on its summit. Undeniably, agree, there is something symbolic about this. It just so happened that recently, in test mode, the Grand Egyptian Museum began operations, a truly magnificent structure, simply grandiose, where there will be an incredible exhibition. This is probably the most magnificent museum in the world, the most expensive. I personally think it is indeed the most expensive one. I am not entirely sure, and as far as I know, he just started working the other day and is still in the test mode. And it somehow seems like this coincidence is meant for people to remember Egypt, to recall the pyramids, in a viral way, as if something flew by. It is possible that the dog did not just happen to be on top of the pyramid, and that some Englishman did not just happen to fly by. It may be a kind of publicity stunt to draw attention to the opening of the museum. Well, maybe, but how from the Pyramid of Khufu? And more importantly, how was it done, or what meaning lies behind it? It might be a publicity stunt, or perhaps the dog was artificially brought up there, and I hope it was taken back down afterward. But the primary thing is that the result indeed turned out to be completely allegorical and very relevant. Here's a short video that I wouldn't have made if it weren't for the dog. It's probably a good thing she ended up there on top. Thank you for your attention.